Hello everyone, my name is Pixlriffs and welcome back to the Hardcore Survival Guide. So a lot of people have asked me to make one of these 100 days videos where you survive 100 in-game days in Minecraft and then do a video all about that process. This is a video style a lot of people have been doing recently, kind of pioneered originally by Luke the Notable, and what I figured we could do with this series, instead of doing a 100 days video where we start a completely new world and I just take you through the first 100 days of that, we could do kind of summary videos when we hit milestones in terms of in-game Minecraft days. Now, my next 100 days is probably not going to be as interesting because honestly, I've just spent the last 15 days of this world chopping wood, but I figured maybe when we hit some bigger milestones like 500 or 1,000, we could check back in and do another one of these videos and you can see the progress that we've made since the last milestone video. But for that reason, I basically kept all of the footage that I've recorded from the Hardcore Survival Guide world, and so without further ado, here are my first 100 days of the Hardcore Survival Guide. We spawned in a taiga biome, which was pretty much the perfect place to gather our early wood and then immediately leave, because I didn't really feel like building there. Of course, once we gathered some stone, we found a little bit of coal as well, perfect for our early game supplies, started murdering sheep for a bed, and then stumbled upon this pit that happened to have 4 blocks of iron just sat there in the wall. So I decided to hop down here and mine my first raw iron of Minecraft 1.17. Getting out of the pit, we stumbled upon a ruined nether portal that had a bunch more iron in it that we could turn directly into ingots, use that to craft our first iron pickaxe, and then mine the gold block that somebody had left next to this nether portal. And leaving the taiga biome behind, we crossed the river into a nearby swamp with the aim of getting some more early game resources and happily slaughtering all of the local animals for a bit more food. Our next port of call was a dark oak forest, so I could get hold of some of my favourite wood types and ultimately climb up into the canopy so that we could make sure we knew when the sun was going down and sleep for our first night, which was spent amongst the forest leaves on top of a dark oak tree. As day 2 dawned, we decided to set off in search of a plains biome where I could maybe set down a temporary chest and do some early caving, but not before I'd gathered a bunch of dark oak saplings from the nearby trees so I could replant those anywhere I wanted. Crossing the nearby plains biome, we eventually stumbled upon a flower forest and also located a plains village, which was going to be perfect for setting up my starter base so I could trade with the local villagers and get some OP tools pretty quickly. It wasn't the only OP thing about this area though, because as we explored towards the village, I stumbled upon a zombie spawner at sea level right next to the river in the base of this flower forest hill biome. And it is there that we struck down our first zombies of the playthrough, getting ourselves the Monster Hunter advancement. Wandering into the nearby village, hoping to trade with the locals, I did what any sensible person would do and raided their houses looking to steal their stuff. And what stuff I found! We ended up with 3 diamonds in our first village blacksmith chest, getting us an easy advancement without even needing to go caving. I decided to move in with this blacksmith since he clearly had the goods, and like any good roommate, I just expanded his storage to include all of my own stuff. After that, we walked out into the village to see who else could be a potential trading partner, noting the fact that there were already farmers around, but most of the villagers were unemployed, and decided to spend our second night in the world camping under the stars. The following morning, I headed straight for the taiga biome again, just so I could get hold of some spruce saplings to grow some giant spruce trees, because I decided the best way to acquire some easy emeralds was going to be through a Fletcher. Using the bones I found in the dungeon loot chest, I ended up growing my first giant spruce tree, but I was lacking the tools I needed to cut down a tree of this size. So I stepped into the village, traded with a farmer to get my first emeralds, and then sought out the toolsmith and the weaponsmith, one of whom was going to trade me an iron axe I could really use to make a mark on this tree. And so my third day ended with me chopping down the remains of that spruce tree, the better to trade it to Fletchers in the morning. Recruiting a couple of Fletchers through fletching tables, I started on the emerald grind, getting hold of a ton of sticks from spruce wood and trading my way up through some of the local toolsmith's tools. We locked in another Fletcher's trades because I needed some arrows to go with my newly acquired bow, and I watched the sunset on day 4 standing next to a farm of giant spruce trees. At this point, it was time to start farming some sugarcane and to craft a lectern, because after releasing a villager from being trapped in his house by a carpet, he became my first librarian. And by breaking and replacing his lectern, I re-rolled his trades until he was trading me bookshelves and Fortune 3. I went caving in the local area to get enough iron to make a shield and an anvil, and on day 8, I crafted my first diamond pickaxe with the 3 diamonds from the blacksmith, and enchanted it with a Fortune 3 book. With Fortune 3 on my side, caving for resources was next on the agenda, and since Fortune now multiplies the drops from every ore block, including iron, copper, and gold, we could get the most out of the nearby caves. I dug up my first copper, tore through some iron, mined a ton of coal to smelt it with, and brought it all back to the village so I could make myself a basic suit of iron armor. Geared up and venturing deeper into the caves, I found the remains of my first glow squid, a cave with dripstone growing from the floor and ceiling, and my first axolotl, which I scooped up in a bucket to bring him back home. After crafting another bucket, I ran into some redstone, dug into deep slate and tough layers, grabbed some obsidian from a lava lake, then retraced my steps and tried another cave, where I stumbled upon gold, lapis, an 8 vein of diamonds, and a beautiful amethyst geode, a perfect way to end day 10 of our hardcore adventure. Returning to the village with my newfound riches, I crafted an enchanting table and traded all the bookshelves I needed from our friend the librarian. With the enchanting table set up and an easy level 30 from all that mining, smelting, and trading, I decided to hold off on enchanting and just crafted a spyglass instead. The reason being, with all these villagers around, it was time to start trading with blacksmiths to see how much diamond equipment I could get without spending any of my diamonds. Everything was available for enough emeralds, and pretty soon I stocked up on diamond hoes for tree farming, bought my first diamond shovel, and recruited a village armourer to be my personal stylist. Any low-level enchantments I wasn't keen on were simply removed with the grindstone and re-enchanted. It took a while, but between the weaponsmith, the toolsmith, and the armourer, by day 20 I had a full set of diamond tools and armour, all traded from villagers. I took a few days to return to the caves and gather resources on a live stream, where we tore apart the geode and brought back all the tasty blocks. While my equipment had been improving, so had my knowledge of new game mechanics, and I started spacing out the copper blocks I had found, sheared honeycomb from the nearby beehive, and experimented with waxing them. After clearing the zombies out of my blacksmith's attic, I decided to go looking for moss blocks for my first proper house build. Locating an ocean and diving down to a shipwreck, I discovered moss in the first chest I opened, then grabbed the buried treasure map so we could dig up some other goodies as well. We obtained a Heart of the Sea on day 32. With that adventure concluded, I took some time to design a hobbit hole facade in creative mode, but I really wanted to make the door out of warped wood, so that meant going to the nether. I made the nether portal using the bucket method just to show people that you could, and then spawned in possibly the worst nether location I've ever seen. It turned out we were in a ravine in a Crimson Forest biome surrounded by lava lakes, Soul Sand Valley, and Basalt Delta. I explored a few hundred blocks in every direction, and we did find some ancient debris on day 37, which was nice, but I couldn't find a warped forest and I didn't want to push my luck in the nether. So we returned to the overworld and built the hobbit hole anyway, but with a door made of boring old stripped oak instead of lovely blue warped wood. The moss and azalea leaf roof was the star of the show anyway, and once it was complete, I liked the hobbit hole enough to move in permanently. Unfortunately, so did an iron golem. We gave the hobbit hole a redstone piston door, which involved hunting in a swamp for slimes on a night they literally cannot spawn, but we came back the next night and we got one, and to add insult to injury, the wandering trader arrived the next day to sell me some. I started work on the interior of the hobbit hole, getting the enchanting table set up and farming some more oak wood, before on day 48 I decided to go looking for glowberries in the loot chests of a nearby abandoned mineshaft. While we were there, we found spiders and creepers and spiders and the coolest pair of neighbouring geodes you've ever seen, and spiders and a ravine of death and spiders, but eventually we found glowberries, so that was pretty cool, I guess. I returned to the mineshaft later to grab some obsidian from a convenient lava lake, then built a nether portal closer to the village for easy access to nether stuff like glowstone, which I mostly wanted so I could make my hobbit hole redstone door work from both sides. And now that it had a proper door, I figured that door should actually lead somewhere. So the next few days were spent digging out some of the interior of the hobbit hole, designing a hallway, adding fun details like glowberry lighting and walls made of moss blocks, but the main thing I wanted to add was an automated storage system. It probably took me about 3 days to explain the redstone properly on camera, but after a lot of digging and crafting chests and adding glow-in-the-dark labels to things, I finally had a storage system I could be proud of. I set up some hoppers feeding into the storage system from the surface just so I could chuck everything in there after a long session mining or chopping some wood. The problem now was that I didn't have half the materials I wanted to store in there, so I went out looking for a jungle, a savanna, and a warped forest. The jungle took a while to find, and the warped forest meant I had to ride a strider across a lava lake and kind of set myself on fire, but it was worth it because I finally got to finish my storage system and paint the door to my hobbit hole blue. The strider would be very useful in the last few days of my 100-day journey because I decided to set out in search of a nether fortress so I could get some blaze rods, craft myself an ender chest, and start brewing up some useful potions. Exploring the lava lake, we eventually found a distant nether fortress, then found a more convenient one on the way back, but in between, at least I got all the blaze rods and nether wart I wanted. Last of all, I decided we should celebrate day 99 with some fireworks, so I blew up a bed in front of my own face, then returned with TNT for a safer explosion. Naturally, this was all so we could get some ancient debris, and finally get hold of our first netherite tools. And really, that was it for my first 100 days in this hardcore world. It's been a great start to the hardcore survival guide, and if you want to see more of everything we did here, there's a playlist you can follow which has all the previous episodes. And so our journey has brought us here to our lovely little hobbit hole in the village with a storage system that is now much more full of wood than it was before, and I think that's where we're going to end this episode of the hardcore survival guide. Folks, I hope you've enjoyed my first 100 days in hardcore Minecraft. I look forward to making a few more of these videos in the future, but for now, leave a like on this video for me if you enjoyed it. Please subscribe if you want to see more, and I'll see you guys soon. Take care. Bye for now.